Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's Jack with Stronghold Strength and Conditioning. And today, I've got part one of Scott's incredible 100-pound weight loss journey for you. But before we get into it, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Thursday, I'm putting out content showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine. And it doesn't get much better than that, so take advantage of it. Ready? Let's go ahead and dive into this one. All right guys, like I said, today I have Scott with us who is going to be talking you through his 100-pound weight loss journey, which started about a year ago, and he's about 2/3 of the way there at this point, but feels extremely confident that this is the time that he will see the success that he's really been looking for the past 3 decades of his life. And he'll go into the differences and a little bit of what's been really powerful in his journey here. And overall, I want to let him do the talking. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the call.
All right, everybody. I want you to meet my good friend Scott here, and I'm going to let him do most of the talking today, but I want him to just take a couple seconds here to introduce himself. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, thanks, Jack. As Jack said, I've been friends with Jack for a while. I've been working out with him and following his guidance for just about a year. And my background is I'm 58, and probably a year ago I felt like I was 68 or 78, and couldn't move around real good, and had been that way for probably at least 3 decades. And so I actually, my wife and I kind of met Jack and found that he did mobility training, which at my age I felt like I needed to do. And really we've been working out for about a year now, and it's really a holistic approach versus just working out. That's just a small part of it, but the working out piece just helps me kind of stay mobile, and that's kind of it. I got a normal job, working insurance, and sit around most of the day, which is not the healthiest. And so this has been a real blessing for me.
Yeah, I'm very glad to hear that, sir. So who you got around you? You got your wife, you mentioned, and then you got some other family too, right? Let's bring them into it also.
Yeah. So I've got my wife Donna, who's a big supporter. And as those of you listening may realize, that when you have people in your family that go through any health issues, whether they're brought on by their own slowly by diet or whatever happens that gets us into a certain spot that is unhealthy, your family goes through that with you, your spouse, your children. So we've got 2 adult kids, 28 and 27, and Scott and Elise, and they've been part of my journey, like everyone, for the last 20-30 years. And so they're big encouragers for me, and along with Donna. And so I've actually used this to help motivate me, really to help motivate my kids too, and to help them get healthy. So it's been a good journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to get to the deal you made with your son here in a second, because I think that'll be special too for people. But before we get too deep, I want people to realize, first of all, you're only partway in on your journey, and we're doing this because you've made it, maybe what I would say, 2/3 of the way there, right? So we're getting about 2/3 of the way there at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Because your goal originally was 100 pounds of weight loss when we started focusing on that. And do you mind sharing with everybody what weight you actually came to me at? Because you mentioned, just being limited with your mobility and stuff, but what did you come in at with me?
Yeah, I started at about 374, and today I'm rated about 317.9. So it's been just over, I think, 55, 56 pounds.
Yep, you're almost on that 60 mark there, huh?
Yeah, and
Good.
and I think even just before that, I probably hit, the high water mark for me was 393, and you know, really, really twice the size that I needed to be for my frame, and you know, we can talk about how someone gets there, but I used to associate weight loss with exercise, and I learned, I think, by working with Jack that that's not necessarily the case. Exercise is good. I think it helps with mobility, and I kind of learned that from Jack. But the weight loss stuff is really about kind of controlling, what you eat, and not just how much you eat, but really the healthy kind of foods that you can eat. And I think that's been a great metamorphosis for myself to learn that, because there were some things I came into this at the age of 58, really some backward science, if you will. And I've kind of learned, when we talk about what we eat, I can kind of share some of that. But yeah, I ate all the wrong stuff. I was the biggest non-organic guy on earth. There was no way I would go to a farmer's market and buy food. Um, I just didn't believe it made that much of a difference. And then when I learned kind of um, by looking at labels and understanding, different things about what we eat, it really now I don't eat anything but that stuff, which is really amazing. And I kind of eat less of it because it's better food for me. It's more satiating, and whereas before, I ate more of the store bought stuff, and I still have to go to the store. I mean, it'd be almost hard not to, but I spend a lot of my time on Saturdays at the market, and we grow some of our own vegetables and things like that.
Sure, absolutely. So you came to me about 374, and then you obviously were not that weight your whole life. So I mean, as a younger guy, you were athletic, you actually played sports. Can you give people a little bit of your background and history, like back
Sure.
then?
Yeah. So, when I got out of high school, I ended up playing basketball in college, played Division III basketball. So, yeah, at one point in my life, I could run up and down the floor really for hours, and probably like most people. And I don't hold on to those glory days, but it's nice to know at one point I was a pretty good conditioned athlete and could actually do that. Um, and I think we take for granted our metabolism at that age, but because I was still eating bad back then, but um, the really continued to work out and be active into my 30s. But the funny thing was, and I don't know if that my metabolism was changing, but even though I was exercising, I was slowly putting on weight, and a little bit each year, and then after 10 years, it really piles up. And I can remember when I first got over 300, and I've been over 300 for 25 years at least. And so carrying a body at that weight, it does have some debilitating, uh, does things to your body that just aren't normal in terms of your joints, your hips, your knees, and your mobility. So for me, I at least once knew how to be really active, but I associated weight loss with working out, running up and down a basketball court when I was younger. So as I aged, things really started to hurt. I've actually had two hip replacements, and um, that's helped a little bit to get new joints, but it's also knocked me a little bit out of kilter. And I've got one knee that's not great, but I'm fighting that to stay away from the surgery. That I think with some weight loss that I've done and mobility, I've been able to strengthen those joints, and I don't feel as bad in terms of um, that knee joint that's bothered me. It's actually gotten better. And when I met Jack, I was on a cane, so and I wasn't on a cane because I had hip surgery. I think that's why I had the cane. Was when you have a hip out, you get on a walker first, and then you transition to a cane, and then you transition, just back to normal life. Well, I had a cane in my garage, but my knee kept hurting, getting wet, hurt so bad I actually couldn't really walk without a cane's help. And again, I was 57 at the time, so I just felt like I was getting ready to step off into you know, I just wasn't living. I wasn't living an active or healthy life. And at my age, being around on a cane, and thankfully my kids were, they're living on their own. It's just my wife that's got to, witness that. But it was a blessing to meet Jack, and then really just focused on mobility and things I could do slowly, and really have gotten stronger and better over the last year. And it was embarrassing to be on a cane and at my age, and I needed it to get around, which was sad. But once I started working with Jack, we started to strengthen some things and do a lot of different exercises. And I don't know if you want to talk about mobility now, but there are
Sure.
things. Yeah, there are things I couldn't do. I'll give you a couple examples. And these are things. If you're a heavy person, and if anybody listens, got weight issues. I mean, a lot of weight issues. There's a lot of shame and stuff that goes along with that. And I don't blame anyone for my situation. I face that and realize that it's something I did to myself over time, slowly. And there can be reasons or excuses for that. Maybe things change, but I don't think it's healthy to hold on to blaming others for our issues. So um, I was always ashamed. Being on a cane's embarrassing. I can remember walking through the office at work and dropping a pen or something on the floor, highlighter in the middle of the office, and people around, and having to kick that thing to a chair or a desk that might be 8 or 10 feet away, having to kick it because I could not physically bend down and pick that up. And um, that was that was just kind of the way it was. And if people saw that, it's embarrassing, and it's embarrassing enough that you've got to physically do it that way. But the other thing is my wife had to help me tie my shoes, because I couldn't physically get down there. And it was probably my stomach was in the way, and some mobility flexing, bending issues couldn't get me there. So I wore a lot of slip-on shoes because I didn't like to have my wife have to do that. And that was for years. And so she's truly a saint. And so if anyone besides me deserves to get healthy, her witnessing that is, a small miracle, because we put our spouses through so much. She's been my biggest fan. She knew me when I was athletic, and um, you know, um, she's just been in my corner all that time. And so I want to get healthy for me, but I want to get healthy for my family, and I want to be around, see my grandkids. And when you're 370, 390 pounds, you're just not going to stick around that long. You're going to shorten your lifespan, and that's a shame because it's self-induced. And we can get into why people eat and stress eat and things like that at another time. But that is, that was my life. I would stress eat, and over time, it just, not being active, not watching what I ate, those things over years just really piled on. And it was a burden to the point of not being sure that I would ever overcome it. And I think, Jack, I mentioned to you, I had done a lot of the programs that you see out there. I'd done Weight Watchers, Atkins, keto, just about everything out there I've done, and had some success with it. And um, but never the success that would, put me over the top where I wanted to be and then help me stay there. Usually I would do something, and then it would come back, and I would, if I lost 25 pounds, I would come back and put 35 back on once I got tired of doing it. And that kind of yo-yoing is really, it establishes kind of a defeatist attitude in your mind. And our minds are pretty, they can get pretty entrenched in one direction. And so it really takes a major breakthrough to get through all that. And So I think all that constant failing over the last 3 decades, was, it really puts you down to a point where you feel like, yeah, I'm never going to overcome this. It's going to put me in the ground, and be what it is. But working with you, it helped me. It was holistic, so it was mobility, it was diet, and I wouldn't even call it a real diet because I could eat what I wanted to. And the nice thing was, because when I first met Jack, there was no way I was going to do organic. There was no way I was going to do grass fed anything. And there was no way I was ever going to know what grass fed and finished that way meant. And um, but over time I learned that the approach is not only mobility was really the beginning. And then once I got mobile, we got into some light weights. Yeah, I'm not a big weightlifter, even though I'm a big guy. I'm not super strong, but I am stronger now. But back then, it was just about doing something to stay active. Whether it's walking, getting on a stationary bike. A lot of different exercises on your program that I could do and slowly improve at. And then the mobility, that kind of training, that weight training, and then the approach to health and diet. I think all of that wrapped together. And then our weekly calls. I think the accountability really helped.
Sure.
And the nice thing about Jack is, if it didn't go great in a week, he doesn't hit you over the head. He's just encouraging you to stay on the horse. And but it was an educational thing too, because I think so much about health and the sciences behind it that that's where I learned the most is, yeah, I really didn't look at food labels. I didn't care, what I ate, where I ate it, and that was clear. And now now everything I get is, yeah, I eat whole fats. I eat, some protein. I eat some carbs. In the beginning, I didn't eat a lot of carbs because I was trying to move the weight loss along. But now we've reintroduced in the last few months a lot of good healthy carbs. So, because of keto and things like that, I was afraid of carbs, and now I'm not afraid of carbs. And drinking whole milk and orange juice and things that are really okay for you or good for you is something I've come full circle with. So we had, like most people, we had 2% milk in our fridge, skim milk or almond milk forever.
Mhm.
And now I don't buy that. And because that was the thing everyone said we should have. And so we did. But now it's just whole milk, full creams, things like that, and real butter. And those are actually the joys of life, for a big guy that likes eating that. Those are nice things. And whereas before I always thought that was where I got hurt, and it wasn't. So I think, we can touch on those three, but I think the mobility thing for me in the beginning was there's shame, like when I go into a room with my wife and we're going to go sit down somewhere, I have to think about the chair I was sitting in because I was that big. Um, and, that's not a normal thought for normal people. But for me, um, I was afraid of sitting down in someone's house and breaking something, and the just how horrible that would be. And but that's something that there's so much that comes along with being big. Not only can you not really move and do normal things, um, you know, airplane seats, for example. And I haven't been on an airplane in a while because of COVID, but I was the guy, and I'm a tall guy, so even though I'm really heavy or was really heavy, I don't, I looked big, but I never looked like if you're shorter and you're carrying the same weight, you're gonna look even bigger. But so sometimes I could hide it because of my height, but getting on an airplane, I always needed that extra seatbelt, and it was embarrassing because you'd have to ask the stewardess as you get on. Um, and now I haven't been on a plane, but I guarantee you, because of the clothes I buy, I've gotten new outfits that are a lot smaller. I'm certain because when I needed that extra seatbelt, I was usually an inch or two away from not needing it, and So now I'm certain if I got on a plane, I'd be able to cinch that belt and have a little room left over. And I mean that makes you feel like, hey, I'm kind of normal. But like you said, Jack, I've not gotten to where I'm going yet. But I feel like I'm educated enough through the time I worked with you where I've implemented now everything that we've worked on, and I feel like I can carry it forward. And I'm excited about that. I'm not necessarily excited, about, uh, uh, but you kind of feel like you graduate a little bit, because I've now learned
Sure.
not just one portion of eating better or what to exercise with or mobility stuff, but kind of all of it together. And then it's kind of wrapped in an education of, you know, um, knowing, having the knowledge now of what to shop for, what to eat. And I haven't felt hungry in a year. I mean, I'll be honest with you. You know, um, I could pretty much eat what I wanted, but, um, you know, through the education, you learn what not to eat. And um, it's not that I can't have ice cream or a piece of pizza if I want. It's just that, I would figure out what those things were impacting me, and so I tended not to reach for that. Whereas before, that was just part of my regular diet. So
Sure.
it's been a good experience in that regard for sure.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a lot of the things that I was hoping you'd get to with just the psychological factors that really play into having extra weight on your body and not having that type of mobility simply because of the weight that you're carrying around, which,
Yeah,
I talk a lot about mobility in the form of just moving well in the first place, but one of the ground based places we need to begin with is having healthy tissues and structures in the very first place to really make that all happen. And you came in with Donna to my mobility program, for Donna's sake, right? Was that,
right.
I
Yeah,
got that right? It was just kind of like you were gonna do it along with her in that process,
yeah.
and
I think she had done something maybe to her shoulder, if I remember, and
Mhm.
yeah, and I mean, she's an athlete. She works out, and the funny thing about her is she's eaten the same stuff all her life. Um, and she's not one of these people where I've got to have a variety of everything. And she will eat the same thing for 7 straight years for breakfast. And um, so she's just feeding her body, and that's all she's doing. It's not a celebration when you eat like it is with me. And but there's something to be said for that. I've looked at her, watched her, and learned that um, there's nothing wrong with eating a consistent, healthy diet. And she's been the same size, and she's not a big lady at all. She's been the same size for forever. So if anyone deserves a healthy husband, it's her. And so yeah, she I think got really healthy, but I ended up doing things. I did things in your mobility stuff that I was like, that's crazy. I could never do that. Um, and I can honestly, and I still have some work to do, and I'm doing it, but I can honestly say that I can put both my palms on the floor, which I couldn't touch my ankles before. And
Sure.
here's the other thing I couldn't do, which is going to sound weird to people. I could not cross my leg. If I was sitting in a chair, I couldn't bring my left leg over or my right leg over the other leg, and not cross them at the ankle, but cross them up above the knees. And um, there was so much mobility stuff that I was just crushed on because I couldn't. That weight just impacts and permeates so much of our life. I mean, not only mental and guilt and shame, but because I think Jack, you and I talked about when people are heavy, it is not, it's not, I mean, I'll just say it from where I come from. Anytime we overdo something, it's overindulgence. And, I mean, I consider that a sin in my life. And um, doesn't mean I'm a horrible person. We all have things that we carry that are a burden to us that we need to shed. And for me, the way I approached food was just almost a gluttony. And it was too much. And so, I don't really look at food like that anymore, but I did just 12 months ago. And so for me, being able to shed that and kind of stop something that was eroding my life was massive. And I'll say this, because I'm not a dramatic fellow, but I think I told you that, yeah, I felt like running into you saved my life because, and I'm not trying to be overly dramatic there, but you know, at my age and weight, you just aren't going to stick around too long. Something's going to give. My physical body was deteriorating because of the weight, and your heart has got to be under tremendous stress from carrying all that weight. So I felt a tremendous burden to change. I didn't know how to because I tried everything. And so I'd gotten to the point where I felt like I gave up because I didn't know what else to do. And that's hard to believe because, you're a smart guy, you're 58. But I looked at so many things in terms of how to lose weight, and they almost were all gimmicks. And when I met you, it was like, hey, it's not really, and you weren't trying to be insulting, but you were like, it's not really that hard. It's really about changing slowly your diet, watching what you take in, and for a while tracking it because that's how you learn. That's how you understand. And in the beginning, I was eating. I bet you I was eating 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, easy, just all my life. And that's how you get that extra weight on. And so, conversely, if you want to take some weight off, you've got to get the calories in a healthy spot where you're actually at a deficit each week. And it sounds rough, but it's really not. You're talking. I think our goal was 1 to 2 pounds a week, which was,
Yep.
which for a guy that needed to lose a lot, I was like, that's not enough. I need to lose more. I need to lose 5 pounds a week, um, and it's not easy to lose weight, and it's actually harder to lose it, I think, than to put it on. But slowly we've done it, and it's been the healthiest thing I've ever done. And I'll tell you one more thing about so I'm in the kitchen, and this is just yesterday, and I've been almost flab for the last 30 years, so I'm in the kitchen and I don't lift a lot of weights, and so I've got my arms on the counter and the island, and I'm just kind of suspended there. Not completely, I'm still standing, but my arms are just kind of locked in place there. And my wife came up to me and she was feeling the back side of my arms. And she was like, oh my God. And I don't feel the back side of my arm. So I didn't realize there's a lot of muscle back there, but there used to never be muscle back there. But just from some of the weight training that we do, and again, it's not hard, it's really reps. It's stuff I feel like I can lift, and the different push pull and all that, the carry methods. I can do that, but I never felt like I was doing like tremendous weight. I just did a bunch of reps, and I would be sweating when I'm done. And but every day I felt stronger. And I think I told you, I really felt like I was getting stronger. My lower half of my body definitely, and my upper body I thought too. But when you're a big guy, and I'm still big, a little bit big, that you don't see like 6-pack abs because I still have work to do. But she was like, oh my gosh, your arms. She said, I've never felt that kind of muscle on you. And I was kind of proud. I was like, yes. And that's right. And but anyhow, it was I didn't even realize it, but I knew that I was getting stronger. I could feel my chest changing a little bit. And but anyhow, that all plays into, I think, to the health, to physically getting a little bit stronger instead of feeling like you're going backwards and deteriorating. I feel like I know I've got the tools to do the stuff I need to do, which I'm doing. And then I'm eating right and the exercise, and I can go out and walk 3 to 5 miles, whereas I couldn't walk a flight of stairs when we started. I mean, I can remember the cane, and I think you remember, I went to physical therapy at the direction of my doctor for my knee. And at the same time, I was working with you and doing, health stuff. And I had stepped off. I had stepped off some exercise they were doing where I kept going. They kept having me. I think it was stairs. They kept having me go up 3 stairs and down the other side, and it was just repetitive. And I was going 3 times a week to this place, and not that they were good people, but I remember doing it, and I was fatigued, and I might even have worked out before I went there or something, but I was fatigued, and just I could feel it was so many times that my legs were tired, and I came off the last stair, and I wasn't paying attention. I think I stepped funny, and I went right down to the ground. My knee just crumbled, um, and that happened at the rehab center, and it was really a disappointing thing because I felt like I was going to be set back forever, and because I associated so much of what I did with trying to sweat and exercise. And but I think when you and I met on that and we were talking about it, I think I can't remember everything you had me do, but I did some things, and I was back to normal within a few days, and maybe three. And I think I was putting some floss tape on it, and doing different things, but I wasn't back up and around pretty quick. And then I probably at the doctor's chagrin, I didn't go back there because doing the stuff I was doing with you, my knee actually was getting stronger and felt better. So it was but yeah, it was disappointing coming out of there because I was like, man, I'm here to get healthier, to get stronger, and I felt like I just blew my knee out, and it was terrible. But I couldn't actually put any weight on it. I had to crawl in that center. I had to crawl to a chair to help myself get up because I was afraid to just try and stand up on it. And then I just limped out to the car and had to leave. But yeah,
Yeah.
those are terrible, terrible memories.
And if I'm remembering correctly, that was probably when we started talking about your weight loss, actually. I think it was your knee
Yeah,
that was really driving,
yeah,
because you had been doing the mobility program, and then it was like, well, let's try and take pressure off the knee from the weight in general.
right.
But you bringing that up makes me think of your grocery store story, stepping off the curb wrong. And this
Oh,
was this was not long ago, right? But I think it
yeah,
shows your improvement quite a bit. Um, you
yeah.
want to kind of tell people what happened there?
Yeah, I was actually leaving a store, and I was just looking at my receipt, and at my age, I need readers to read small print. So I put on my glasses like these, and I was looking down, and I wasn't watching where I was going. And so when you're looking down through your readers, everything else on the peripheral is kind of clouded, and I didn't realize I was stepping off a curb, and it was a big curb. And so I went down, and I stepped off, and I can't remember why my knee twisted or why I fell, but I went down, and um, actually went straight down on my knee, and then I kind of rolled to my side and just took a chunk of skin off the front of my knee. It was kind of a nasty fall, and there was one guy out there that looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." But I got right back up, and whereas before I wouldn't even known how I could get up.
That's
I
exactly what
just
I'm getting at right
stood
there.
up. Yeah, I just stood up, and before I couldn't get up off the ground on my own. I would need to always have a chair or something, and um, so I think it could have been worse, would have been worse because we'd been working together for quite a while at that point, and it was just a misstep. It wasn't anything other than I had my readers on, and I stepped off a really long, tall curb and went straight down, and um, but I was able to get right back up, and it was. In the past, I would have struggled to get up off the ground without some kind of apparatus or chair or pole to help me. And um, but yeah, the thing I think that's really helped my lower body, not only the stretching and the mobility stuff, but um, part of our workout we do not a lot, but we do squats as part of that, and could be the Spanish squat or with dumbbells. I think in the beginning we just squatted without anything, and it was just my body weight. But again, I because I was such a large man that when I would sit in a chair, and if you've ever been around someone who's big, when they sit, they kind of flop, and it's not because they don't want to sit and daintily and nicely. It's because physically they're just not. They just have to fall. It's so much body weight to carry into that chair in a controlled manner. It's just not easy if you don't work at it. And so I would sit in chairs like that all my life. And Donna remembers this. We would be in church, and I would just flop in the chair, and was that way at home. But now um I think by losing weight, it's helped. I think strength has helped, but I think honestly, the squats was such a big thing for me that I had not really sat down in a squat in maybe since college. And um, so for me, I think it's really helped me to sit myself backwards as I'm sitting slowly in a controlled manner, and then to just set my backside on a chair without falling, and not having to hold on to anything. And that became something we did every week, and then we slowly did it with dumbbells, and um, so my legs and my lower body have really benefited from the squats, I think, whereas it's actually taught me now how to, not only sit down, pick things off the floor, but I mean, I've got more mobility there, where before it was just it was a bad show. And so,
Sure.
now I like it. I can, the practice of squatting. I think even we can go so low in our squat that it's actually beneath a chair level. And that kind of control with your legs and your body. Now when I sit in the chair, it's like Donna. That's one of the first things Donna notices, that you don't flop anymore. And well, I don't need to. I know physically how to sit. And that sounds really weird, but it's, when you're a large man, there's so much that you don't do well. And that was just one of them. But to get control of those things, to be able to pick things off the ground, and now I'm more active around the house, outside, working, in the garage. I'm physically stronger, and that really helps. And then the whole eating aspect of what we did and do is, my approach was, nothing was off limits. That's how you get to be a big guy, I think, a big person. You don't have a lot of control in that area of your life. And I think when we first started working together, you know, uh, everything I bought was at Kroger or Publix, and maybe I'd go to the health food store once in a while. But I remember we did the little steak study together, because I liked a nice steak, and um, there's some good fats that can come with it. But if you get it at Kroger or Publix, I learned that those aren't necessarily the best steaks, even though we think we're buying the best steaks. And I think one of the things we looked at between like a grass-fed piece of meat and a store-bought piece of meat was, I mean, you could just look at the color of the fat on those steaks, and it was a different color. It looked like someone had bleached, the fat
Hmm.
on the store-bought one. And but the protein and the calorie content of a grass-fed steak versus a store-bought steak, one of the things I learned about, which blew me away, which I would never have thought was accurate, was that you actually get more bang for your buck when you buy the grass-fed, even though it costs a little more. And not only that, it's better for you. The fat's better for you. And if you just make that change in your life, if you're a big steak eater, I mean, that's a big change. But I went from that to, I was that guy that never would ever, ever buy organic. I just didn't believe in it. I didn't know the science. I didn't know the science behind it, and I thought this is just one way to scam me out of more of my money. And but now everything I get is like that. And it's not that it's more about, for me, and it's not the money. And actually, I think we can fool ourselves and think we're spending more for that stuff, but you don't realize it's more satiating. It's got more vitamins in it, more minerals, and it's better for you, because when they feed the animals grain and you buy that and eat that, you're consuming that, it's going into your system. Um, and you don't realize that's how they get those animals bigger quicker, and a third of the time is they ingest all this junk, and then we later ingest it. And so I kind of learned, the process was more for me. There's a big education going on every week when we met and talked, and you would share with me some things. And the nice thing was, you were never like, hey, do this. You're always like, it was more of a, hey, you should look into this. And the science behind it was really what I was learning from you. And that became an education process for me, because I didn't have to go do all the work that you did to learn that stuff. I mean, it's a lot of research and work. And then when we would meet, I would learn things from you, and I would go check it out. And I mean, every time it was right on the spot. And so, the diet now consists of some eggs. I used to hear that you couldn't really eat eggs. I don't eat a ton of eggs, but I eat some, and I like eggs. I can eat some grass-fed bacon, even sausage if you want. I don't eat a lot of that, but I usually eat some protein. If it's seafood, it's got to be wild caught. Whereas I didn't know what that meant before, but now, I mean, I've had wild caught salmon lately, and it's more fatty, of course, salmon is than some of your other seafoods. But just in that particular fish, I've had wild caught, and I used to always buy the farm raised stuff and didn't realize it, and that tastes different. You can just taste the difference in wild caught. It tastes better. And again, it's got more nutrients. It's probably got less of the bad stuff in it, and it's that way with all the fish. So if I can get wild caught, I do that, and then my beef and everything's grass fed. I've even gotten some pork chops that are um, grass fed animals, um, and then the vegetables I tend to get at the farmers market now when I go get some bacon or meat because I talked to the guy, and there's one really big stand. He's got everything at it, but there's a bunch of stands at the farmers market. But I go to this one guy because I've actually conversed with him while I'm in line, and he's pretty open about how he grows his stuff, um, and um, it's a healthy approach to vegetables. Whereas when you get them from different stores. I mean, those things have to carry across the country sometimes. And this guy, he lives 20 miles up the road here in Nashville. Um, and I trust him. I see him, I talk to him, and the line is around his stand, for a block sometimes and he's got a big operation he brings in, but he's very open about how he grows stuff, and so I think that's why most people are around his stand because um, they want to get the best quality food, and he usually brings the best stuff. So, but that's been a whole 180-degree turn for me because I didn't believe in any of that, and I think just from education, it was something that I picked up through you that now I feel better when I know I'm eating the right stuff. My wife is, my family when they're in, and so it's the health of what we eat and the science behind what we eat is important. And so it's kind of been a full circle for me. I've learned a lot about the mobility, the weight training, just exercising. The only thing I'll say about the exercising was my approach to weight loss was exercise. And when I met you, we talked about that, and I was astonished that you um, didn't really associate a lot of weight loss with exercise. And you were more about, hey, the exercising is an added mobility thing. It'll help you stay active and healthy, and it's good for your heart. And um, but you were like, that's really, if you're using that to lose weight, it's probably not going to really be what sustains you. Um, and so now I exercise to be healthy, and I enjoy it. Um, and really the focus for weight loss was, let's keep an eye on what we consume, how much of it, and see if we can't tweak that a little bit and make sure we're eating the right stuff if we can. But that's where the weight loss would come from, was from, controlling what we took in. And that's given me, as a guy that was, I was clearly a guy that ate outside the lines. That's given me a approach to controlled consumption of food, whereas more of a discipline. Whereas before, I didn't have it. I couldn't sustain it, and now I feel like if I eat over a certain number of calories in a day, I know it and I feel it, um, and it's a lot less than I ever ate, a year ago when I was eating 3 to 4 thousand calories a day. And now if I eat, 2,500, I can feel a little full there because it's in a deficit in terms of your caloric intake. I'm personally not eating that many calories in a day, so I can feel it when I get up there. And sometimes it happens. It's not the end of the world, but for the most part, I try to stay at a little bit of a deficit and in time that drops the weight.
Sure. And you said you'd been through every diet you could think of at this point, right? And how long had you been doing that dieting? And what would you say are the biggest differences between now and all of those that you had tried previously?
You know, it seems to me, I mean, I think Weight Watchers is probably a decent program. Because I'm not here to bash any of them, of course, but and I did that. I had a hard time staying with it. Um, the I think you can lose weight on just about anything people put out there as a program, and but whether or not you can sustain it and keep it off is a different thing. And some of them I don't think are really healthy. When you start to get into carnivore, keto, intermittent fasting, OMAD, when you start to get into all that, it's not that any of those are horrible. And, you and I've talked about, I mean, there's probably times for people to do fasting or a little bit of fasting. It's probably not bad for us. But if you use that as a vehicle to lose weight, you're probably going to be deficient in a lot of my senses. And I don't know that you and I've talked about that, but, my senses, if you're fasting forever, you're going to be deficient in minerals and vitamins and things that you probably need to live. But I think a short 2 or 3 day fast is probably healthy for us once in a while. But that's just my opinion. But in terms of the difference in in programs, and man, I've done a lot more programs than that. I think I told you I did the shake program that Mike Huckabee did in Arkansas. Um,
Hmm.
and I think I lost 80 or 90 pounds. And I did 5 shakes a day, and that was it. And um, it got to a point on the way home from that program, I was stopping at a fast food place. That's how bad it got. And so I was deceiving myself, um, and I did. I got down to a certain level of weight, and then there was no after training. There was no after anything. And so once I felt like I couldn't drink another shake for the rest of my life, and it was just powdered protein shakes, I think. Once I started to go back to eating, man, the weight came back quick, and it took me a lot longer to lose it, but it came back fast, and it came back probably 20% greater than where I started. So I put on a lot of. I not only went past the point I started, and think about that and on your mental, um, I don't know what you call it, acuity, but mentally I had lost all that weight and felt like I was doing a good thing at the time. And at the time I felt good. I was dropping pounds. But there was no rebound on the other side. So not only did it all come back, but it came back more. And the problem is when I look at that, and I remember mentally where I was. You talk about when you have a defeated attitude, and it becomes part of who you are. Um, I remember looking at that and remembering the struggle of, hey, I'm not eating, I'm just drinking shakes, and it was kind of a pain, and it went on for months. Because I lost 80 or 90 pounds. It went on for a while. Um, that was a struggle to do that, to get there, to not eat normal food. And it was, almost painful not to, eat regular food. And I'm a foodie. And then to be on the side of that program where the weight's starting to come back up and it's coming up, and mentally to be there and not feel like I could stop that and do anything about it, it was horrible. It crushes your spirit. You feel like such a failure, and and again, that's probably a fine program. If you're super morbidly obese and you need to do something, then maybe that helps get you there. But you got to have something on the back end that you fall to from an educational standpoint that says, hey, this is how I go back to eating a slowly reintroducing food and eating a healthy diet. And I didn't really have that. And so to me that was a dismal failure. And I paid money for that program. So not only did I waste my family's money, that yo-yo stuff, where you go up and down in your weight is not good for you physically. And that was a mess. And that was, that was almost a blueprint of everything I've ever done. I have a little success. And, and then I feel like I hit a point of failure, and then all that weight comes back and then some. And so the difference, I think, for me is I think your approach was holistic. It was, and I liked, I'm an easygoing guy, so I like the fact that you were never trying to hit me over the head. I don't think I could have worked with you. I think I would have had to just slip away in the night. Um, but I think you're always encouraging, and that helped me because I felt like I could fail, or if you had a week where you went up a little bit, instead of losing weight, you actually put on half a pound. That happens, and so I didn't feel like you were there to beat me up. I felt like you were there to coach me, and then um, the for me personally, the mobility, the health approach, eating the right foods, and really, by I think the one-on-one meeting with you was for me, it was a psychological win because I was extracting not only immediate feedback on how I did that week in terms of, hey, and it was an open dialogue, two-way street, but it was education. So I was learning. Each week it seemed like we talked about, hey, maybe try this kind of food. Do you like this? And maybe try to introduce that into your diet. And pretty soon I had replaced the junk I was eating with healthy substitutes that are delicious. I mean, I can eat real butter, and I grew up on margarine. I mean, you know, and that was really the food and science world. My mom used to drink saccharin, and she's been gone now 15, 17 years, but she used to put saccharin pills in her little pink pills. I don't know if you ever seen them. You might be too young, but
That one I'm not sure. Yeah.
oh my, yeah, anybody that's older knows what I'm talking about. They're these little pink pills, and they're a sweetener. And you drop them in your coffee, and it was fake. It could kill you. I forget. I forget. I don't know the science, but you could Google that and learn that.
Yeah,
But
there we go.
it's so bad for you that they don't. Yeah, I don't think the FDA you can even sell it anymore because I think it creates cancer or something. But people used to put saccharin, a squirt of it in your coffee. But it was an artificial sweetener, and it was horrible. And um, but that's kind of where I grew up. I was born in the 60s. I grew up in the 70s, went to college in the early 80s. So my time growing up was probably the 70s, and there was a lot of margarine, no fat. Don't everything should be low fat, and as long as it said low fat, you could eat as much of it as you wanted. It would kill you. So all those things that the FDA and the government used to tell us were the right things to eat. 3 decades later, we find out they're actually killing you. And now, I mean, just getting back to natural sources that are grown, grass fed. I'd say butter is one of my favorite things on earth, and it's delicious, and you don't need a lot of it, but and I count it in my caloric intake. I know kind of how much I can take, and the other stuff I used to have was just gross, and just natural butter. From a good Amish farm, there's nothing like it. And so, I think for me, the approach to what we have done together has been holistic, and it's not. And I actually just thought it was going to be one part when we first started, but it really became, hey, I can help you with your weight training because you kind of geared me a program that was good for me. In terms of you knew the things I struggled with, things I needed to strengthen. And now, like I said, I feel strong. I felt strong for the last 6 months, like stronger. And Donna notices my shape is physically changed, and I still have weight to lose, and I will lose it, but my shape is physically changed. My clothes are all changed out. I've had to swap clothes, and now the clothes I've swapped out are loose. And um, but the strength, I think, physically, I feel better. I've had two physicals, and my everything is improved. And when you lose a little weight and you eat better, it gets better.
It's funny
So
how that works though, right? Because
yeah,
what are they measuring? Your cholesterol and your
yeah,
blood markers like that.
yeah,
And you're eating the stuff that you were told growing up would kill those
yeah.
numbers, right?
That's right. Yeah, the fat and
So there's a good example right there.
yeah, and you and I've talked about it. I mean, the reason people tell us from the government that certain things are bad for us, it's not even the government as much as it is the food industry. You know, they're trying to sell a product, and they really don't care if it's going to kill you. They're just trying to sell. I can remember, you know, I mean, everything I ate so much stuff out of a bag that was packaged by a machine. You know, I mean, I always shopped in the kind of inner food aisles and never in the outer vegetable fruits and you know that kind of area. Now I don't really eat much out of a package anymore. And I mean, even cheese, you know, there's some good cheeses out there that are packaged, but even that, you know, is, you know, I like, you know, like at the farmer's market, there's a lady that sells good cheese. And, you know, I like to get it there and taste better. And
Sure.
you can see the ingredients and, you know, what they put in store-bought stuff's a little, they've got to preserve it and they put junk in it. They try to put stuff in there to make it taste better. And, you know, so that's been a full process for me from an education standpoint, from a weight training and just working out, you know. And we don't do anything crazy, but you know, the thing I wanted to mention that I think was is super helpful is a habit, you know. So I could not stay physically on any program very long from just trying to work out and do things. Um, a lot of that was mobility for me. I can remember going and getting on a stationary bike at the gym and I couldn't pedal it. I couldn't, my hips could not perform that normal roll motion in your joints. And some of that was I probably needed a hip out at the time. So I was locked up arthritically there, but some of it was I just wasn't used to that motion. And um, you know, now I've got a stationary bike and I actually prefer walking more, but you know, I'll get on that if, you know, if I want to. And, you know, especially when it's heated up in the garage, that's where it's at. I can get a good sweat going just riding that for 30 or 40 minutes. And once in a while it's a good change, but in the wintertime, sometimes I sissy out and I get on it because I don't want to go outside, but I'm getting better at that. But, yeah, the you know, I think just the mobility of everything I do physically has gotten a lot better, and I owe a great debt of gratitude to you, and I've told you that, and I appreciate everything we've done and you've done for me. But I feel like it's changed my life because I've not only got the habit of trying to work out and exercise. That's a habit for me. So it never, and I'm 58 years old, hasn't been a habit since you know probably when I was 30, um, and it's a habit and it's not if I don't work out it's really not guilt I feel you know it's really that hey I'm missing out on a fun part of life if I don't get some working out in before my day starts. So I couldn't say that before, and now Don and I we work out not necessarily together, we'll walk together, but we both work out, we do different things. She's got an elliptical she likes to get on or she'll go outside and we do walk some together, but you know, we both work out a lot, and it's not we're not a slave to it. You know, I'm not the guy that you know I'm not 20 anymore where I'm in the gym throwing up a bunch of weight, bunch of plates. But you know, for my age, I'm active, and you know, we want to be able to do things outside and hike and do things that we used to do, ride bikes, and you know, that's exciting to me is that I'm getting part of my life back. And imagine that I couldn't tie my own shoes. I couldn't stand up. Couldn't pick something off the middle of the floor. That seems like so long ago, and now I can do all that and should be able to. You know, it's embarrassing when you can't, but it's part of who we are when we don't take care of ourselves and life comes at us and we don't. You know, we get caught up doing the wrong stuff. Um, so that's a big part of it. The habit of working out is um, you know, I feel like I'm missing out if I miss a workout. And then the eating is a habit. You know, how I eat, what I eat, that's become a habit. And now I'm more interested in reading a label than I am about just getting something that tastes good. So usually if I find a good label, the fewer ingredients on that label, the better off I am. And And I find that that even tastes better. It's just, it tends to be more natural. So to me, those are all the habits I've developed from working with you, and then just kind of overlaid that with education. I've learned a lot from you, from our talks, and I would encourage anybody. Um, I had no idea what I was missing before I met you. I would not have sought you out purposefully, because I was defeated. I thought it was over. I thought, man, I've been down every road I could go down, and with the best intentions, and come out the other side of those experiences a little bit worse off. And again, I don't blame anyone for my situation back then, or anything. I mean, we're in control of our own destiny, and in terms of what we do and how we approach it. But I was not. I didn't know what I didn't know before I met you, and so when I met you, I didn't even realize that we would do things from a holistic standpoint. I thought, well, hey, Jack can help me bend a little bit better, and but not only did you do that, but I've learned what exercises to do. Now I know a bunch of exercises, kettlebell stuff. I never thought I'd throw a kettlebell around, and now I enjoy it. And I've got to get bigger kettlebells, as you and I've talked about. I've actually, the nice thing about kettlebells is, if you need bigger ones, meaning these have gotten a little light, you can just do more reps until you fatigue yourself, and it still works. But I still want to get some move up in my kettlebell weight, and then just didn't know what I didn't know, and that's for people that feel like, man, I've tried everything and I'm a little bit defeated, or a lot defeated. I mean, I really thought that this was going to be my life until the grave, and I thought the grave was closer than it probably is. And that's serious stuff, because when you go 30 years and you try different things, and you don't get there, you got to find something different to do. And the funny thing is, I've tried every gimmick on earth in terms of weight loss. Heck, I think I even told you I thought about stapling my stomach. Did I tell you that? I think I told you that.
You might have mentioned that one, yeah.
When we first started working together, and I actually had a doctor telling me I should. And you might think that that's terrible advice from that doctor. It probably is, but realistically, he doesn't know any better than I do in terms of what we can do physically to change. And he probably looked at me and thought, man, you're 30 years putting on weight. You're not changing. And so, the only the only bullet I have left in my gun to give you is, maybe you should get a stomach staple or something like that. And because he's maybe thinking he's trying to save my life. But the realistic part of that, and then, there's people that have done that and have done well, and there's people that have done that and not come out of it very well, and maybe passed away. And I learned that you can actually eat through that somehow. And so, the lesson for me is I've tried everything but that. And I actually had thought about that, and had it recommended to me. And that's about when I ran into you. And I think, the one thing that was really hard to believe for me is how easy this was, in terms of, watching what you eat and how you eat, where I really thought I would be in a deprived state of mind all the time. Wasn't like that at all. I actually learned to eat different foods that are a lot better for me. And like eggs, I will tell you, farmer market eggs, those free range chickens compared to like a store-bought egg, just the difference in an egg is incredible. And it's healthier for you. I actually got a couple duck eggs at the market last weekend, and had those. And but and I would never have thought of that. But the approach to the food is so much easier than I actually realized. It's really not about what you can't eat. It's about trying to find what you can eat that's healthier for you. And then you find out that you're more satisfied from eating those types of foods. And you're not in want in terms of your meal or what you're eating. And that's a huge thing for me. I can eat stuff I like bacon. And I don't overdo it, but you know, I can eat stuff that you would think, well, on a diet, you probably shouldn't eat certain things, but you know, if it's healthy and it's, you know, it's the right stuff, you can eat it. And you know, if you're not as hungry when you're done, then you're not going back to the well and overeating on things. So yeah, it's actually been simpler than I realized. And if I could explain it to people that need to lose a lot of weight, you know, don't be in a hurry, take your time, educate yourself, you know, let Jack educate you weekly. And you know, it's just such a big difference, and it's not as complex as we make it.
Well, and you talk about time too, and you say you'd almost been that way for 3 decades, but and it seems slow. I know it seems slow. I know the process is it's one step at a time walking it out. But in the grand scheme of things, you've lost this 60 pounds almost in a year
Yeah,
compared to, and it's just about steady consistency. And that was one thing that you were really good at was you were pretty consistent with what you were doing throughout it all, no matter what. And that was one thing that really made a big difference for you. You implemented what we were trying to get through to you, and you were consistent when you implemented it for the most part. So
yeah,
you know, you shouldn't take anything away from yourself out of any of this because you put the work in and you did the time. But again, in the grand scheme of things, a year compared to the 30 years that you were struggling through
yeah.
it, I mean,
That's true.
that's a pretty good deal. So,
Yeah,
and I have faith that you're gonna continue finishing out your goal here and walking in that direction. And um, I do want to close us out here. So,
okay,
you know, it's just been a thank you for coming on and sharing with
yeah,
everybody and being open with everybody. It's just been awesome working with you, sir.
yeah,
And we'll have you back on when you do reach that goal, just so you know,
yeah,
so we can talk
absolutely.
about what the last portion
And
of that journey looked
I
like
have
for
that
you.
I have that shirt you sent me, so I'll be putting that on
That's that
uh,
reminder.
when I hit that goal. But no, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you've done for me and my family, and Donna appreciates it. And you know, it's I can't say enough thanks because it's been a you know, it's been a great journey. And it's like you said, it's not over. I'm still in it, and but yeah, I feel so equipped to continue forth. And it's the education piece for me was so big that I learned so much that it's not that I'm now you because I'm not, but I've learned a lot from you that I can institute things that will help me stay active, stay mobile, and eat the right stuff. Um, and so much of that in my life has changed for the better in such a big way that it gives you confidence now. Whereas before, when I got to an end of a program, I was scared that the weight was coming back on. And now I feel like not only is it not, I will continue the approach that we had. And you've kind of, you know, it's like you're kicking me out of the nest, even though you're not. It's like I've learned enough that I can walk now on my own. And I mean, I'm a long ways from that guy that had that I had that purple cane, and I couldn't do anything on my own. And now I'm pretty active, and I really like it. And I owe so much of that to you. And I just want to say thank you.
It's my pleasure, sir. All right, well, hang on here while we close out the show, and we'll go
Okay.
from there. All right.
Yep.
All right, and there you guys have it. A pretty incredible story and an incredible journey overall that Scott is on, and I will bring him back on when he does hit that 100-pound goal so we can hear the rest of his journey and how that went. But I just wanted to bring this to you guys so that it could help motivate you and inspire you if you need this type of motivation. Sometimes the first thing that we can do and the best thing we can do to improve our mobility is overall get our body weight in a good range that's healthy for our joints overall, and that can be the biggest step that we can take. If you guys like this video, make sure you let me know by clicking that big thumbs up down below. Take a moment to share it with a friend who might need to hear a story like this, and if you have not already, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Thursday I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine. And it doesn't get better than that. Welcome to the Stronghold Army. Catch you guys next week.